and thank you for joining us for our Salute to Industry video series, where we have open and candid conversations with employers to highlight specific industries available for our military community. My name is Angie Fair, and I'm an active duty Army spouse of 17 years, and I oversee our Army Spouse Employment Campaign, along with our newest initiative, the Recruiter Connect community. And RCC is a community of corporate recruiters who are prior service, Guard or Reserve, or military spouses who come together to discuss, learn, highlight, and share some of the best practices and challenges that are occurring in the veteran recruiting space. And so today, I am joined by my colleague, the one and only Sandy Artman, and our guest, James Scaparrotti. And James participates in our Recruiter Connect community. He's a retired Air Force veteran who served over 2 decades in various roles, from security forces to several different positions in the recruiting space. And he currently serves as a lead recruiter and a new position as the Veteran Initiatives Program Manager for TechOp Solutions. Well, welcome, James, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and I've really enjoyed my time with the RCC as well. Thank you.
Awesome. We're happy to have our active community of recruiters. We think it's a great chance for us to come together and share some resources and ideas. So just to kind of start off with, would you mind sharing a bit about yourself and your role at TechOp Solutions?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, I'm a fairly recent retiree of almost 22 years of service, retiring October of 2021. And like many other members of the military, I kind of tried my hand a little bit more at the mostly private sector, disconnecting myself from service and military, et cetera. But I quickly found that I kind of missed the familiarity of at least working in proximity of the government. And it's what led me back over to TechOp Solutions and working as a recruiter on government contracting roles.
So can you tell us just a little bit more about TechOp Solutions and I know they're a contractor, but what are some of the main contracts that you all oversee?
Absolutely. So TechOp Solutions is a veteran-owned, service-disabled company that predominantly focuses on technology and operational support. So, for example, we work a large account dealing with FOIA, or Freedom of Information Act, analysts and specialists supporting various government agencies, everything from the Department of Education through U.S. Coast Guard, Department of Homeland Security, and others. We also work a lot in the privacy field, which is growing and expanding all the time, especially with advances in AI and other technology. There's always new privacy concerns. And then we have some specialty roles in like developers, software engineers, your normal kind of cyber and higher technology skill sets. So we have kind of a whole spectrum of specialties that we are often recruiting for.
James, you just retired. So how did you find TechOp? I mean, what led you there? You were in security services, but that's not necessarily the IT field. So, how did you find this nugget? And tell us about what led you there.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell you that. And I tell all the veterans that I work with, whether they're an active candidate or even if it's someone that I'm not able to place at the time, that's a veteran or a previous government employee, I encourage all of them to create a profile on clearance jobs. And that's where I actually found TechOp Solutions, was on clearance jobs. There's many smaller government contracting companies out there, and they may not have the budget or ability to advertise on the larger platforms or pay the high fees on LinkedIn to get to the first page, but they've got great viable jobs with really wonderful career opportunities. And I kind of got lucky by finding a recruiting position on clearance jobs that was advertised through the ATS system, or applicant tracking system. And that led me to apply for them and reach out and, express my interest. So I always share that with fellow veterans, individuals that have been in the government space, to make sure you have a profile on clearance jobs. And of course, all my fellow veterans, I push over to vet jobs as well now. So
yes, absolutely. Send them our way. And we certainly have a lot of clearance positions that we work as well. But I know you work in the contract space, so lots of security clearances, but could you talk a little bit more in depth about some of the positions that TechOps is recruiting for now, or some of the broad positions that a candidate could expect to find at TechOp, in terms of location, if there's any certain types of remote or hybrid roles or anything like that you'd love to share?
Absolutely. I would say almost all of our positions are at a minimum a hybrid. Very rarely do we have a completely on-site role. The positions that we are currently and most actively recruiting for are in the DMV area, and they are those support roles in the Freedom of Information Act as well as the privacy space. The thing about the Freedom of Information Act is you don't have to be a trained FOIA analyst. I would love to get more E3s and E4s that have maybe separated after 4 years of service that would be interested in pursuing a career, which is exactly what FOIA can be. They can come in with little to no experience and quickly ramp up into junior to intermediate to senior FOIA analysts, all within our company. And that's one of the primary things that I really enjoy about TechOp is there is career tracks within the company that you can come into and support those contracts. We also have efforts in Colorado and ongoing efforts in California as well.
Very good. I think that growth potential is something that's so important for individuals who are just leaving the service, that they understand and are able to see that it's not just a job, it can be a career path.
Absolutely. And a lot of people are struggling to figure out how to pivot into something different, right? So you may have been artillery or a tanker in the Army. You may have had a very specific skill set, such as aircrew life support in the Air Force, and you're not exactly sure what to do with that career field. But you also gained several other skills, whether it be administrative, leadership, attention to detail.
Exactly.
And those can be capitalized on some of these career fields that would, give the opportunity to pivot. And the clearance level is relatively low too. Most of our positions are going to require a public trust. So if you have an active DoD secret, it's going to be a pretty easy transition for you to get what's called reciprocity for that clearance. You'll just have to go through the granting for that particular agency, but we also sponsor, and I thought that was something great about TechOp is there's a lot of opportunity. If you don't have a clearance, such as a veteran spouse, we do offer opportunities to still be sponsored into those career fields.
Oh, that's great.
James, you already alluded to this next question I'm going to ask about. What's the candidate, what can they expect? What do they need? Do they need certifications? You kind of already alluded that, hey, I'd like to have a lot of first term enlisted folks who, are trying to figure out what to do for a career. But can you fill the gap a little bit more on certifications or anything that you're particularly looking for in candidates?
Absolutely. So for the roles that I support, which is predominantly in the Freedom of Information Act and privacy arena, an individual trying to get into Freedom of Information Act or FOIA analyst positions, high school diploma and 2 years of experience. So pretty low bar for entry, but to advance, I'm looking for those individuals that do hold a 4-year college degree. So your BA or BS, they can obtain it while they're a junior FOIA analyst, but to really be considered for intermediate and senior, they're going to need to have that degree. So I am forward looking at individuals that hold that degree. They can come in the junior role, but advance quickly into those intermediate or senior roles based on their capabilities. Privacy is a little bit trickier. Although there's not really a cut and dry requirements for privacy, We are looking for individuals that have done privacy impact assessments and privacy threat assessments. So those individuals may have had more of a communications or information technology background. They may have come from information assurance or something that parallels. Even paralegals, JAG officers, et cetera, have a really good opportunity to maybe transition to privacy. And we would look for individuals that may have the CIPP US. CIPP EU is growing in its acceptance only because a lot of the European laws are being adapted by US laws as well. So, yes, sir.
What is the CIPP?
Oh, I'm sorry, Certified Information Privacy Practitioner, and it is governed by IAPP. So that's the governing body for that. And it is a growing field. It's growing in the government, and one that should possibly be looked at. I know a lot of military members are kind of guided into doing like the PMP, but the reality is that the PMP for the civilian sector is quite different than project management as a military member. We are not really dealing with manpower budgeting, et cetera. We may have resource budgeting, but we're not really doing manpower budgeting, et cetera. So the CIPP should be probably looked at if you're looking at a semi-legal or analytical type position in your future. I would highly encourage individuals to look at that as a possible course.
If I'm a young transitioning soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, where do I look to get my CIPP?
Right, you can start with IAPP.org, which is the International, I believe, Association of Privacy Practitioners, and it's the gold standard. Much like PMI can be considered the gold standard for PMP, IAPP would be the gold standard for privacy professionals.
Okay.
And the great thing about the privacy world too is for the government, it has a spectrum of clearance requirements. So we'll have the public trust minimal security clearance through top secret. So there's opportunity for individuals with that. But strong analytical background, some privacy impact or privacy threshold assessments would be necessary unless they have an advanced degree with the certifications. But a growing field across the government, and not just at TechOp, but as a whole. So something to look at.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's a good pathway for our candidates to understand with that, getting into that privacy or FOIA space, that credential can be valued. And we may have some training opportunities within vet jobs and military spouse jobs to get some basic level information on those. I would have to do some more research, but we do have quite a large catalog and database of different entry level courses that might be streamlined into that as well.
Absolutely, or at a minimum for our FOIA positions, if they come from a more mechanical or technical career field, to move to some of those administrative skill sets could be great too.
Yes, absolutely. That pivot is important. And so having some baseline training can definitely go a long way in helping them to be a successful candidate with industry. So, well, James, I know you mentioned earlier that TechOp is a veteran-owned organization, but can you tell a little bit more about some of the veteran and military spouse hiring initiatives within TechOp and kind of what drives that initiative within your organization?
Absolutely. I would say the driving factor is in part our CEO being a Marine Corps retiree officer, and then the grassroots efforts landing on recruiting for kind of those initiatives to broadcast our programs and our initiatives that we're doing. For example, we just recently did recently participate in the Wreaths Across America. So the individuals located in the DMV area were normally the ones involved, but they expanded it out to anyone near a national cemetery was given basically comp time or was not charged leave to go participate in the Wreaths Across America to support those efforts. For other veteran initiatives, for our high-performing individuals that may have been recognized by a supervisor or even a peer, we have a monthly Make It Happen award And individuals that have received that have an opportunity to be selected. It is at random, but one person selected from that pool has an opportunity to contribute to various charitable organizations. And by and large, many of the organizations we support are veteran focused, whether it be for improvements of a home for just certain disabilities, maybe for service animals. It can be also for just different veteran-centered charitable organizations and others. So monetarily, we put a lot of effort there as well. And then we have, really started making sure that we are broadcasting birthdays, service anniversaries through our communication channels, as well as beginning a veteran mentorship program. I'm participating additionally with ACP, which is American Corporate Partners. You guys are familiar with that. And I have a Air Force retiree separating that I am mentoring and helping guide on their resume creation and guiding through like kind of the job search as he transitions into the civilian sector as well.
Very cool.
Well, I think I have the last question. I don't know. But so what can a candidate expect in the application and interview process at TechOps?
Transparency, first and foremost, which I really appreciate. As a candidate, you're going to get feedback on your candidacy. You're going to get a response. You're going to get a streamlined process. By and large, I would say the maximum number of interviews you may have is going to be around 2. So as a government contracting company, you may meet with the program manager or project manager that is part of the TechOp corporate side. And then you may have an interview with either a team lead or a client side representative at the agency that the candidate would be working at for an additional interview. Sometimes we don't even worry about the corporate side. We just move straight to the team lead, one interview, and then move to offer if accepted. So a pretty streamlined interview process. There are specialties such as developers and others that we may have additional testing or vetting to do, but by and large, a pretty streamlined, efficient interview process.
Wow. As an HR professional, I really appreciate the transparency. That sounds like a value at TechOp. And our candidates are always looking for a streamlined process. They don't want to get dragged on for 2 or 3 months and several different interviews before. So I think that that's something that should really be celebrated within your organizational culture. So, James, is there any final information or anything that you would like to share with our candidates about TechOp as we wrap up here?
Just that, I think it's a pretty awesome company that gives veterans and civilians alike, spouses, an opportunity to apply for positions that, give a career opportunity in some of our cases. We do have specialty roles, but we are often looking for just well-rounded individuals that want to come to work, want to do a good job, and want to grow with the company. So for that, I really do appreciate the efforts at TechOp, and it's exciting to, as a recruiter, to be able to represent a company like that and be able to, stand behind, since we are that first point of contact. We're often that impression. And so being able to kind of follow through that impression on the corporate side or when they onboard is really meaningful. And I think a lot of candidates do appreciate it. And my feedback is always very positive as far as their experiences through the recruiting process, as well as the employment time at TechOp.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today to talk about TechOp, yourself, and some of the veteran initiatives and roles that you all are hiring for. So we look forward to continuing to partner with you and sending some candidates your way.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for having us and giving me a few moments to talk about our company, and look forward to continue this path with the RCC and Vet Jobs Spouse Jobs.